like tap in. How esoteric do you want me to get?
No, I think it's
Okay, so I'll just be like candid.
yeah.
And yeah, I really needed to heal. And using art as a reflection, like a literal reflection on the wall, was perfect. And I had this amazing teacher who allowed for me to explore my inner dialogue. I remember making these drawings of human beings that were like full of flowers, and like flowers were sort of growing out of them. And it was sort of a young idea, but the idea was basically, even though our form is different, even though our psychology is different, we all are like composed of the same substance, and we're all blooming.
Yeah.
So I kind of carried that psychological, spiritual, individual, universal impulse from my undergrad into my grad education in California, College of the Arts. And that was when I really started to be able to like think really critically about identity, about my deep interests in spirituality and the esoteric aspect of religions, specifically Christianity for me. And yeah, like looking into why world religions have made such a profound impact throughout history. It's not just because of, like, I don't know, there's not some cliche or stupid answer that's true for that. It's like, no, these are spiritual bedrocks that have profound truth behind them, and it's up to us to evolve with that truth as we evolve.
Yeah.
So I'm just not satisfied in life not asking the deepest questions I can possibly ask. And it is a bumpy journey. It is like full of suffering and full of pain in the soul. The more you wake up, the more you realize how imperfect you are. But I think art and any creative activity, it could be a conversation, but it has to be intimate and authentic and really interested in the human being.
Yeah. The more you wake up, the more you realize how imperfect you are. Why would that not be also seeing the perfection that is there?
Well, it's so totally true. I have a mentor that has really changed my life in the past year. He's my mentor. He's my dear friend, and his method of sort of working with me is to never focus on my shortcomings, but to always like, oh, you have this shortcoming, let's put it to the side and let's look through it. Oh, you have this other one, let's put it to the side and look through it. He never like points to the flaw and talks about the flaw. The flaw is like become illumined very clearly when we focus on the spirit that's developing, which is good and beautiful and true. And this simple activity of having someone see me and see through my shortcomings and like sort of de-veil me and let my true self shine has allowed for me to actually confront my shortcomings very head on. And it's been a really life-changing psychological and spiritual encounter. And I do it with all my friends now. Like I don't notice something that's suffering in them and sort of crystallize it and hold on to it because it traps them.
Yeah.
I just kind of notice it and then immediately like have that question, oh, what is the beauty that this is actually concealing?
Yeah.
And then open it.
Yeah.
Because nothing in the human being is actually evil.
Yeah.
There's just sort of veils of unconsciousness that can seem evil.
Yeah.
But opening those veils actually reveals the real person who is a divine being.
Yeah. That's really deep, So one of the things in astrology is that we are mediating the cosmos for the person who one is giving a reading to. And so one's own trauma need to make sure that that doesn't get inflicted on the other person, right?
Yeah.
Because if I have a negative relationship to Saturn and that someone has a moon Saturn, then I could just say, I could trap them in this negative form of moon Saturn or whatever.
Totally.
That's what I hear you in your own work through art and spirit, having found that.
Yeah, that's a really awesome resonance with astrology. I think a lot of people don't understand the power and the potential of astrology in practical life, or even in theoretical life and philosophy. But that's a great example. Like we have these sort of when we're born, we are born through the cosmos and enter the Earth sphere. So we pass through, in a spiritual sense, this whole cosmic community of planetary beings. And in that moment in time, we collect those forces and their unique relationships and hold them in our body, in our soul, and we carry ourselves through life with those conjunctions and those different planetary relationships. So to actually like be aware of them as certain soul gestures that are kind of inherently part of our fabric that can relate to other soul gestures in a variety of ways is obviously true.
Yeah. So it comes to this this specific artwork here. If we could just bring this hoodie, which has your work imprinted within the integrate this sort of symbol, right? So when you were creating this, the process we used was with the history engine, giving you insights, images, fragments of culture from previous Saturn-Uranus transits. And some of these transits are amazing breakthroughs and also profound tragedies, like the crash of 1929, where a lot of people lost their livelihoods, and yet it also opened up the 1930s and the society on the other side of that. I experienced the range in this when I saw it, like the darkness and also tremendous optimism. In a way, you, through this work and through everybody who's seeing this, who will wear this around, you are mediating the cosmos on a mass scale through this work, right? It's not a reading that you're giving one person.
Right.
You're helping us at Integrate This to give a reading to an entire moment in history for the planet. So a lot of the purity you described, the importance of not trapping people psychologically. I'm so glad to hear you bring that up. Could you talk a little bit more about what was the experience when you first saw the history engine images? How did you go from there to coming up with this?
Thank you for all your kind words. First of all, the history engine is awesome. It's, as an artist who is working with qualities, especially like the quality of red, the quality of orange, the quality of a straight line, the quality of an angle, the quality of like an ombre, all of these aspects of art are really consciousness, like incarnations of consciousness. So if we look at like this line, this black line, and sort of the hard, metallic, stony brutality of this black, like the word coming to me is like an obelisk or obelisk. I don't know if it's a real description of this. Some cliff or something.
Yeah, like a big rock.
Like a big rock, yeah. And then it's in relationship to this red that turns into sort of fire and all this yellow movement. We don't have to be knowledgeable about art to understand that there's an experience taking place here. There's an experience that is legible through the actual qualities of the forms and the colors. And the what's it called again?
The transit or the
history
engine.
History engine, yeah. The history engine is composed in that way to me. It's a very graphic in terms of visual. The visual archive of images that are full of very well-sourced qualities. I remember like a street with very stark yellow paint on it, or like a drop of water in a pond. These are all images that express vividly these very pure consciousness qualities. So when I was looking at it, it was actually easy for me to understand the message of the history engine itself, and also how it was to be used. It really brought me into a relationship with Saturn and Uranus. And then I kind of just brought together those qualities of hardness, of angularity, of fixedness, of law, of tradition, like these sort of rigid but very focused and clear aspects of Saturn, with these like laughing, revolutionary, bubbling, lively, innovative, creative aspects of yellow and Uranus. So bringing them together into this soul gesture is really like, this is an image of soul. It's an image of an inner dialogue with these forces.
Yeah, that's really something to hear you describe it as a soul image. And we did share with you, like, about several months after you had drawn this out and shared it with us, we noticed there was like a Jupiter-Neptune quality within the work that at first we didn't see, because Jupiter is not something we were actively tracking in our history engine. But clearly we saw this bubble sort of emerge in the center, that blue bubble there being cracked. And there was a front page cover of The Economist during the time the Chinese balloon was floating over the United States, which was basically like a bubble that was being cracked down the middle.
It was very synchronistic.
And in some ways we see this as a work of art in a certain moment of time, but also almost like a bit of a Nostradamus kind of predictive sense of what it means to sit in these energies and where they evolve over time. It's like when you put an ice cube on a surface, it will melt over time in heat. And it may be similar with these forces, that over time they just kind of evolve in a certain direction.
Totally. I mean, that's actually a really key point in any sort of spiritual endeavor, like astrology or art or psychology. It's like, for some reason, the laws of the spiritual, when you enter into one little node of truth, because it is a truth, it opens up to other truths. So it's beautiful. Like, you can, once you access one little kernel, everything else will be opened up to you in some sort of thread. But until you get to that one kernel, you can be searching around the periphery for like forever. So I think that, it makes sense that this sort of had some prophetic qualities in it. Because it was touching on the truth of the Saturn Uranus
of the moment. It reminds me of commerce as well, in a way that when a company finds a business model that works, then they can start expanding into other truths of commerce and society.
Totally.
But till they do, they're wandering around in the dark.
Exactly. Yeah. And I'm just looking at this right now, like this integrate this logo is, to me, this is a really good image for our times right now, because we are trying to integrate such a complex society, so many conflicting or seemingly conflicting forces. Some people are like really expanded and really open and seemingly free, and like yeah, and then others are much more constricted and closed off and focused, and neither are more true. They're both polarities.
Yeah.
So how do we find the center?
Yeah.
How do we like really live in this world with such complexity and so many different human beings who are probably all striving for truth and love
Yeah.
in their own way? This is like, yeah, how do we integrate this? How
Yeah.
do we actually bring these forces into ourselves and unite them somehow?
Yeah. I like that because that sense of a lot of different opinions is the postmodern quagmire, right?
Yeah.
Relativism, like, sure, choose this path, choose that path. It's all the same because we all have opinions. But I liked how you said we're trying to find something on the other, like, how do you reconcile all of those?
Exactly.
So I think just asking that question, obviously I don't have an answer, it's a big question, but even asking the question, it implies that there may be a truth to be found. Maybe it's an individual truth, but maybe there's something universal there within all the diversity, which I think is super important.
Yeah.
Like, what does it mean to live with wisdom, right?
Right. Yeah, everyone has their own wisdom.
Everyone has their own wisdom, and yet there is still a shared sense of what wisdom is. And I think that's why archetypes and God, yeah.
Or just thank God.
Oh, thank God. Yeah.
But not only individual sense.
Yeah. That archetypal sense of like brings theoretically something that we can meet on despite our diversity, right? Like being a good host in different countries. It's totally different.
Yeah, very different.
But still there's a thread there.
Yeah, and I think that like integrate this is a saying, but it also is a question.
Yeah.
It's like implying, can you?
Yes.
How?
Yeah. I'm not sure if I ever told you like where that phrase came from.
I think I heard from Soumya.
But there was like a tree that challenged me once. I was in a class with Brian Swim, who's a cosmologist, and trying to commune with nature, and the tree laughed at me saying, integrate this, motherfucker. Basically, that's honestly what the tree said to me. I'm not saying this, the tree said it to me. Because it was saying you cannot integrate even one branch of me. I'm so vast. Like,
wow.
How do you even integrate one leaf? That was the question. I could have my thoughts, but is there any way for me to I could crunch up the leaf and eat it, right? But is that me integrating it or just getting indigestion?
Yeah.
No. So what is your sense on the relationship between art and fashion? And, I mean, your work could be on its own on a wall in a gallery. Instead, it's being printed onto this object that somebody can wear and walk around. How does that evolve the work?
Well, I think it brings the art into the essential realm of humanity, which is the social realm. Like if you're wearing one of these hoodies and someone asks you, oh, what's that image on the back of your hoodie? Then that allows for a conversation to open. And that conversation could be the beginning of a friendship. It could be the beginning of a new frame of mind. It brings art into a realm of social life that allows for social life to benefit from it in a way that it can't in a gallery as easily. Also, when I was living in Long Beach, California, in 2017 and 18, or 16 to 18, I was making these like haute couture type fashion garments.
Yeah, I've seen some of them. They're amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
They were very important for me to make because they were sort of revelations of how closely related fashion and identity are. What we put on our bodies is similar to what we put in our bodies. It's that intimate. It expresses who we are, and it expresses who we're not. Also,
Yeah.
it expresses what we're struggling with. It expresses how we think of ourselves, how we want to think of ourselves and be. So I think fashion is extremely important for culture to take seriously, because it's like architecture. It colors the space in which we live.
Yeah.
And it shows how humanity thinks of itself.
Yeah.
So bringing these astrologically inspired images onto clothing, which is just the first iteration to integrate this. I'm sure the cosmos is the limit. But even this sort of humble hoodie with this artwork is representative of a profound step forward in bringing pure consciousness into fashion consciously.
Yeah. I can see that. I can see evolution being an increasing intimacy between matter and spirit.
Yeah,
because I
totally
feel like both have to be honored. There is, to me, the world. I know it's very Cartesian splitting, but there is the world of matter that I see, and there's the world of spirit. Like there's the way people see me, and then there's the way how I feel, right?
Yeah.
And so that intimacy, going away and coming back, and so deepening more consciousness into fabric. I mean, I think that's something we'd like to explore as we keep going further.
Totally.
There's brands like Off-White by Virgil Abloh. There's Ralph Lauren. There's Chanel. There's Diesel. There's so many brands out there. There's also a lot of criticism of fashion, especially fast fashion, I suppose. Yeah. But it's also easy to pan fashion as being trivial, which I think you've done a nice job of helping to frame what fashion does. It colors the world we live in, the space we breathe in. What is the use of yet another brand? I mean, do you see into? I know you have a personal stake here because you've been invited to participate in this brand, but as a very creative soul who was at CalArts,
or California College of the Arts,
who also was at CIIS, California Institute of Integral Studies. What is your sense of having yet another fashion brand that is using commerce? People have to pay for this. It's not, I mean, they can see it, but they have to buy it. It's also not a mass market priced object. It's something that somebody has to really believe in to acquire. It's not crazy, but it's still a commitment. What is the value of framing consciousness through that kind of a project? And in the worst form of it, how can one ensure that it's not just becoming an egoic project for myself and for Somya as like founders of this brand, right?
Well, I think from the get-go, it's not egoic because the way you invited me in as a creative was very free and trusting in my intuition. I never, at no point in the process, I felt belittled or confined as a creative in any way. So that's already like a very social gesture, which is not egotistical. It's not about like your own aggrandizement. It's about, can we collaborate on this initiative to bring something to culture that is trailblazing and exciting? So in that way, it's already inherently meaningful. I think that the ideas behind Integrate This are fascinating because they are bringing a very spiritual, conceptual mindset into something that can be very everyday, like a hoodie. And that to me shows how interesting and expansive the human being is. Like nothing we put on our bodies is just every day. It's actually very meaningful.
Yeah.
Even if we don't feel like it is really meaningful. So just this gesture of like bringing consciousness into fashion that's not really based on aesthetics as much as it's based on consciousness itself. That is I don't know any other brand who's doing that.
Yeah.
And I think what's really exciting to me about Integrate This is that it's such a beautiful, dense kernel of like a dense seed that it can grow in a lot of really fascinating ways because it has a really strong foundation that has really infinite growth possibilities.
Yeah. When we have to thank, at least for us, the California Institute of Integral Studies, the amazing researchers and creatives there who have seeded myself and Somya to, want to share this message and bring our own voices, your voice to it. I really appreciate what you said because it reminds me a bit of Jeff Koons, actually. Some people have found his work banal, but for me, I see, and Takashi Murakami as well with his flowers, but Koons with the balloon dog, bringing a sense of luminosity to the everyday,
Yeah, definitely.
It's just an everyday object. I think he had some art pieces which were just like literally everyday objects, right? But it helps us to see that that's fragment of luminosity or the divine. None of this would be here without some mystery which created it.
Totally. Yeah, and I think that Integrate This is opening up the mystery. It's revealing it. It's not interested in creating fashion that is inspired by the mystery subconsciously.
Yeah.
It's like directly awake in the inspiration.
Dance with the mystery.
Yeah, and that has a lot of potential in it.
Cool. Well, I think we've had a really full conversation here. I think I'd like to just end with just a chance for you to share a little bit more about who you are as a person and, how Integrate This has been involved in your journey, but more importantly, what is it that you aspire to do with your creativity, your spirit? Because we know that there's a challenge in life as well. There's challenge of time, challenge of money, there's all these constraints. Yeah. And yet within that, you've chosen to pursue a very artistic, creative life. So what is driving you forward? And even if driving is not the right word, feel free to...
propelling me.
Yeah. Where do you want to go? What do you want to see,
I have a very simple goal, which is I want each of my human encounters to be real. I want to meet people and actually see their individuality and see their spirit. I don't want to see a cliche. I don't want to see people who are burdened by all of these constructs and constructs that really sort of snuff out their own true being and present them as something that is like a creation of a cliche culture. So that's the kernel. That's how can we reveal the human spirit? How can we believe in the human spirit? How can we strive to create a life out of the human spirit?
Yeah.
And I'm pursuing that through a plethora of arts. I'm in Eurythmy School, which is a sacred movement art, very intensive 5-year program, but it integrates the cosmos. It integrates music, painting, the social encounter, spirituality, science, farming, like all these different things it integrates into this movement art. And it strives to show how the human being is an artwork. And to awaken to the artwork of the human being is to ask very deep questions and to be courageous in our interest and loving in our research methods and our process of discovery. So that's my goal. And I definitely have concrete goals in terms of how that can be implemented and sort of formed in a career path. But that's not as important to talk about right now.
Yeah.
But basically, trying to search for that in every aspect of life.
Yeah.
And not being satisfied with anything else.
Yeah. Just to circle back to something you said earlier about maybe not seeing evil necessarily, but just layers of unconsciousness.
Yeah.
And maybe in my view, that unconsciousness is the realm of matter, which sometimes clouds
Totally.
our spirit. Like if you were an addict and you're just craving your next hit, that physiological drive is clouding your ability to engage in something else. It also reminds me of what you said of like, we recently started watching Fear the Walking Dead again.
Okay.
It came out in 2015. And it struck me that the title of that show, Fear the Walking Dead, may not apply solely to zombies, but those humans
Wow.
who are walking but dead inside. That's what it reminds me of.
There are so many of us. And I think even me, who's someone who's so interested in consciousness and like really being awake and being curious about the world, I can fall and become dead inside and lose my connection to the spiritual and my connection to other human beings. And it's devastating. It feels like not the way we should be. It's not the real human being.
Yeah.
So having this sort of like Michaelic, Joan of Arc spirit of trusting in the godliness of humanity, that is the most exciting and fun way to live.
Yeah. Well, Lucien, thank you for your courageous work of art. I think both of us will do our best to honor the intensity, the focus, and your path as a spiritual being, and to try and share this with more people in the world who are tuning into this kind of frequency. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.